is a schedule maker's dream. It is Judgment Day, and there are playoff spots still unaccounted for. Pittsburgh win, and they're in tonight. Even with an adverse result, still a path forward. They welcome the already eliminated El Paso Locomotive, and tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Allegheny Health Network, official medical provider of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. With Eric Dobransky, Mike Watts, here's the Eastern Conference standings going into the night. Louisville has clinched the 1 seed. Charleston has clinched the 2. Everything else still up for grabs. The reality, only 4 teams have a realistic chance of making the postseason from 7 to 10. Now, what that actually means for Pittsburgh, the clinching scenarios are actually simpler than they appear. Win and they're in. Draw, match, or better the result of Hartford and Orange County tonight, or North Carolina hosting Las Vegas. With a loss, Eric, they can still get through, but I don't think Bob Lilly wants to wait.
Absolutely. They want the straightforward path. And, Mike, credit to Pittsburgh. They've navigated some challenging stretches throughout their season. They began the season 0-3-2, and then in a spell from May 11th to July 6th, didn't pick up 3 points through 10. They went 0-6-4, but their last 15 matches, their current form has been tremendous. And as you mentioned, right on the cusp of you win, you're in the playoffs.
How about we talk about a player to watch tonight? It's presented by Modelo. And how about Jockesen's immense impact?
What an addition Jockesen has been to this Pittsburgh Riverhounds side. It's the attacking presence. It's the industriousness in and around the box. He commands so much attention. He can be a facilitator, or he can create his own scoring opportunity.
7 goal contributions in 6 games for Jockesen, the former Pitt Panther. Now, for El Paso, there is no path forward. They've long since been eliminated. But look at what they've done in the last 10 matches when their season was either all but over or already in elimination mode. Wins against teams that ultimately are either side by side with Pittsburgh or have fallen out of the playoffs altogether. Draws against teams that ultimately proved to be the final nail in their coffin. Their only defeats to Indy and Orange County, both teams that are going to the playoffs. Now, this El Paso team has learned how to defend better under Wilmer Cabrera, the interim head coach, and they're bringing back a former Hound star in Jamali Waite, who probably has a little chip on his shoulder tonight.
Yeah, you see those 47 games played for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He had 17 clean sheets from his time here in Pittsburgh as well. He's a goalkeeper that commands his box, strong and decisive off his line, and such presence dealing with those wide entries.
Once an invitee to the December Combine in Pittsburgh, he played at Copa America for Jamaica and stars now for El Paso. The second longest active playoff streak in the league hangs in the balance. Pittsburgh trying to make it back. They take on bottom of the West El Paso. It comes your way next.
At AHN, we see you trying to be your absolute best. And when it feels like you lost your best along the way. We see you taking control.
Looks good. Prescription. It says here.
And needing the quickest care possible.
Let's go.
At AHN, we see you.
Ain't no better feeling than a cold one in my hand. Well, that's why I'll be keeping Iron City in my plans. Oh, everywhere I roam, I'll be thinking about my home. Sitting pouring on the iron right before I go to rest. And when I'm laying in my bed, there's only one thing in my head. Just an ice cold can of Pittsburgh, PA's best.
Is a 24/7 kind of place, and that's where the Ford Escape SUV comes in, the ultimate getaway vehicle. With available driver assist technologies like pre-collision assist with automatic emergency braking, and Bliss, the blind spot information system with cross-traffic alert, to help get away from it all. You got this with Ford Escape. Get out there with 2.9% financing for 72 months, plus $2,000 Conquest cash for GM and Jeep owners on the Ford Escape, only from your neighborhood Ford store.
Tonight's match is presented by Allegheny Health Network, the official medical provider of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds SC. Not time to kiss this regular season goodbye just yet. The Hounds take on El Paso with Eric Dobransky, Mike Watts. No musical stylings here. Here's a look at what the Riverhounds will produce tonight. One change, Atsu in for Biasi.
And Mike, it's a starting 11 that feature balance in both boxes. In their last 15 matches, 28 goals scored, only 8 goals against. Defensively anchored by Pat Hogan, making his 22nd start of the season. But let's watch the influence of Griffin and Walty in the midfield, on and off the ball, as they set the tempo and they complement the attacking qualities of Mertz, Kizza, and Jakobsen.
Conversely, for Wilmer Cabrera, named the interim coach back on May 20th. Basically a remade roster throughout the year. Akinyoti's in, Navarez sits.
Yeah, momentum is a real thing. Unbeaten in the last 5. This is a team that, as we mentioned, is looking to play spoiler, but they want to stack performances and they want to take that momentum into the offseason. Initial exchanges out those wide areas with Ruiz and Stauffer are going to be important because it's going to create the space centrally.
And notably, Yuma is available. The longtime captain for El Paso has announced his retirement at the end of the season. There's your referee, Matthew Corrigan. El Paso playing out the string. Pittsburgh trying to extend the second longest active playoff streak in the league. It's win and in tonight for Pittsburgh. The 34th game, the finale. El Paso away to Pittsburgh. Ball bombed forward by Jakobsen and cleared by Jamali Waite. Eric, you've been around this enough in the college sphere. As this ball dribbled through, pressure from Mertz and touched away. You get to the end of the season and the expectations get bigger. The margin of error gets smaller. And if you're Pittsburgh, you won the Players' Shield last year. You know what it's like to lead from the top. They ultimately fell in the 8-1 game last year. This year, they've had to chase the vast majority of the season. And really, for the first time, they control their fate.
It is, and what you want to try to do is garner that experience that you've had, not only through this season, through the past season where you win the Players' Shield. It's about managing the emotions of the moment, but also executing the qualities that you have tactically, individually, in a one-match scenario. At home, you win, you're in. It's straightforward.
Don't leave it up to chance.
Absolutely.
We'll keep you updated in the game going on in North Carolina. If they were to drop points, Pittsburgh just has to match that result. If Pittsburgh were to draw or lose tonight and North Carolina won, Pittsburgh would have to wait and see the Hartford result away to Orange County, which kicks off at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Langston Blackstock. But you live for these moments, don't you?
Yes, you do. And you mentioned, I mean, the ebbs and flows of not only going from last season to this season. We talked about some of the results throughout the year for Pittsburgh. But you have one match to pick up 3 points, get yourself in the playoffs, and there are a lot of teams that do not want to see this Bob Lilly side in the playoffs because they're going to be a difficult out. And these are two teams in Pittsburgh and El Paso that are riding that momentum, playing well in both boxes, recognizing those roles.
Escoto flung forward, knocked down by Osamano. Pittsburgh 1 loss in 15, 3 wins on the bounce, plus 20 goal difference in the last 15 games. That's the best in the league. That's essentially half a season's worth of evidence.
Well, and Mike, what's astonishing is this is a team that is right on the cusp of making the playoffs too. I mean, you just read off those numbers and it's incredible, but I think it's just about key moments in matchups, especially early on in the season, that 0-3-2 start, not picking up 3 points until their 6th game of the season. But it's those fine margins that have kind of come to define the ebbs and flows that the Pittsburgh Riverhounds have faced.
This ball out. The keys to the game are brought to you by the premium light lager that embodies all things black and gold, IC Light.
And for Pittsburgh, we mentioned it here early on, manage key moments. This is a playoff match to get into the playoffs. So matches come, are defined by some of those louder moments, goals scored, defensive moments, duels. So can you manage those key moments? And for El Paso, upgrade opportunities. This is going to be a tough defensive Pittsburgh side. Don't settle. Make sure you're upgrading chances, whether it's that last pass, that last entry pass, the finish, that final quality is going to be important for El Paso.
Out to Blackstock. Pittsburgh, the vast amount of possession these opening minutes. Blackstock, that was nearly read by Escoto. Blackstock hangs crossfield. Mertz. Griffin lofting. That'll run out. You know, we talk a lot about Pittsburgh, and they're the story of this night. El Paso's played spoiler to a lot of people's seasons. Make no mistake, San Antonio, whether it's Sacramento last week, who had a chance to take control for the 2 seed and a potential extra home playoff game. El Paso is a completely different team than the one that started 0-8-2 in home games this year. They're 3-1-3 in the last 7. The side that ultimately will finish last, but probably is playoff caliber over the last 8 games.
Yeah, and have to feel good about the performances that they have put together in this final stretch. And those actions speak so much louder than what you say you want to do. And for a team that is out of playoff contention, my goodness, they have done a terrific job of putting together those details, putting together those non-negotiables for the way they want to close out their season, and something that they're going to be able to look back on and carry with them throughout the offseason. But they have not, this is a team, and we mentioned Pittsburgh being in the playoffs, and a team that many others don't want to face. This is not an El Paso side that you see on the last weekend of the season and you go, that's who I want to play, because they are playing with a lot of rhythm, a lot of, in terms of the individual roles and the execution. I mean, they are doing everything at a high level right now, and they're going to make it difficult for Pittsburgh for 90 minutes.
Bob Lilly was quick to say their win against Sacramento was not a fluke. That's a poor giveaway from Walty. Well, driven away from Escoto. Akinyoti playing in the double pivot alongside Eric Calvillo tonight. This wrong-sided Calvillo. Kizza came back. Calvillo slides in. That's a foul and a very early yellow card from Matthew Corrigan. And Tumi Moshaban trying to argue that point unsuccessfully.
As we see the tackle here, and
Calvillo into the book.
And I think here early on, when you pick up a yellow that early, especially at the central portion of the field, you've got to feel like the Pittsburgh Riverhounds are going to recognize that early, challenge Calvillo as this match goes on. You have to feel like El Paso is going to play with a bit more freedom, just from the fact that they do have the recent performances, 5 unbeaten, and obviously out of playoff contention, but
nothing to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose. That's a great point. And for Pittsburgh, can you manage this first 15 minutes, get into a rhythm, get into a flow, pick your moments? We saw almost the early turnover and that ball across by Suber. You want to minimize those turnovers, those louder moments that can turn into counterattacking chances for El Paso.
Rolled up by Suber. Junior at 2. Longtime midfielder who's transitioned to the left back role brilliantly this year. He wins a free kick in a dangerous position for Pittsburgh.
And a good dribble and drive, and this is what he does so well. Picking up his head, making the defender make a decision. Trying to take that ball to that end line and giving his teammates time and space to get into that final third, but picking up early free kick.
Robbie Mertz stands over the ball from Upper St. Clair in the Pittsburgh area. Mertz, driving headers in! Kizza the tap-in! He's scored in 5 games running! And the Hounds, who control their destiny, have taken the lead on El Paso.
And the explosive start that this Pittsburgh Riverhounds side was looking for, this delivery just absolutely spectacular. The shape, the pace, there's nothing that Jamali Waite can do. The timing of the run from Edward Kizza, and then just that glancing header. What a start by Pittsburgh. 10 minutes in, up 1-0.
A dozen goals for Edward Kizza, his 20th, most of any Riverhound player on the active roster over the last 2+ years, and goals in 5 games running. Fifth assist of the year for Mertz. Ball inside and across, racing forward, it's in! But no! It will not count for Langston Blackstock. No goal, offside.
And this is going to be important for both teams to manage this next 5 to 10 minutes, because for Pittsburgh Riverhounds, it was a lot of possession through the back. They started to build in through that central area. Now Calvillo on the yellow card. They're playing on that front foot. Now El Paso has to be very careful that they don't concede a second.
Ball driven forward, Akinyoti, plucked by Eric Dick. And quickly distributes. Dick very well could win the Golden Gloves this year. This ball launched over the top and comes to Jamali Waite, the man whom Dick replaced.
And teams already know how difficult it is to not only play at Pittsburgh, but to score on Pittsburgh. And then when you go down a goal, it's even more difficult, because you've got to find that balance between the moments you pick to open up and play, and then also being solid defensively, where you're the ability to slow the ball down, get good support.
Well, it's all coming up roses right now for Pittsburgh. A long, long way to go. We'll have an update in a moment of what's going on in Cary, North Carolina. The North Carolina FC side that's trying to hang on to the 8th and final playoff position. They too, like Pittsburgh tonight, have a win and in. But they're playing Las Vegas, who could seal the #2 seed with a victory tonight. Ball into Walty, that's sent into the stands.
That's Surfside Splashdown number 21 of the season. Brought to you by Surfside Vodka.
Ricky Ruiz. Already 2 goals in that North Carolina-Las Vegas game. We'll show them to you in a moment. But it is 1-1 in Cary. Goodness gracious. Judgment Day living up to it in the first 15 minutes.
Let's see if that game settles in just a bit.
Let's see if this one does.
Yeah. Going back to how difficult Pittsburgh is. I mean, they've only lost once this season when scoring first. 11 wins, 4 draws. That one loss, as I mentioned.
Akinyoti rolling over. Moshaban charges. Griffin tried to cut it off. Played through by Ascolto. This will run out. Let's show you what's happened in North Carolina. JC Ngondo into Corey Bennett, the leading goal scorer in the Western Conference. 9th minute, 1-0 to Las Vegas. And as quick as it came, service in for North Carolina. Paco Craig, the former defender of the year, smashes it home past Raiko Arosarena in the 12th minute. Las Vegas 1, North Carolina 1. It means Las Vegas would leave the door open to both Colorado Springs and Sacramento to jump them for the number 2 seed. It means Hartford still has a path forward, although it has become slimmer with the equalizer. And Pittsburgh, they know this win alone would be enough. They hold the tiebreakers over everybody. But if 2 teams were to finish over them, Hartford and North Carolina, they'd be out tonight. All the way back to Dick. Samano. Here's Griffin. Blackstock. Pressure billowing from El Paso. Walty seating. Jacqueson slashes back inside. Walty offers Blackstock his target. There's Wade.
And that's that interplay that we were looking for from Pittsburgh, that ability for Griffin to drop into that space, be that playmaker, and Walty getting higher up the field. And the combination out in that wide area.
Here's Ruiz. Samanu sends back here to Dick. The Riverhounds want to thank fans for celebrating the 25th anniversary season with us. Now's your chance to win the ultimate prize pack featuring a suite for a 2025 Riverhounds home game, a stay at the DoubleTree by Hilton, a team signed jersey, and more. Scan the QR code for a chance to win. Tuffy, Schallenberger, and Bob Lilly, the staff here have done. The fan support that has just massively billowed since that Open Cup quarterfinal run really captivated the entire region. It's been sellouts here at Highmark Stadium, and they've got big time ambitions to try and develop this venue even further in years to come. But a remarkable 25th anniversary season already for the Riverhounds. Etu stumbles through the challenge. Etu hangs the cross. Jacqueson was there. Ball bounces down and out.
And the problems that Etu is causing out in that wide area, the dynamic play on the dribble, the decisiveness, putting that ball in such a dangerous area. It looks like they're going to pull it back for a free kick.
Etu is still down, and that has the athletic trainer running. A yellow card went to Tony Alfaro, which is going to allow Etu to stay in the game once he is treated. Alfaro now, in 24 games, has bagged 11 yellow cards on the year.
See this tackle by Alfaro. Ball is off the foot. Junior Etu. Now you have 2 players in Calvillo and Alfaro central that are now, there's no question that you're influenced by those yellow cards, and does it influence some of those 1v1 defensive duels?
That's who up and about, dealt with some injuries throughout the season. His 31st appearance, a couple of goals, 3 assists. From the left wing back role. Service laced in and headed in. Oh, it's Kizza again. And it is Pittsburgh's night alongside the Monongahela. 2-0 Hounds.
And we talked about big moments in playoff type matches like this. And these 2 deliveries have just been absolutely tremendous. And there is no answer from El Paso on how to defend it because of the accuracy, the pace. Look at the runs. And you put it in the space, yep. Put it in an area, you put it right in the mix.
That's Ruiz.
Yep, looks like Ruiz is trying to make a play on the ball. But that also comes from the earlier setup where you have a lot of traffic in front of the box. You have that slight, that slight glancing header from Kizza for that first goal. So now you have that almost emergency defending from El Paso, and you get that deflection.
Ball brought down and smashed toward frame by Kizza. The angle of that was such that I assumed it must have gone off Kizza. Then his celebration, he's just celebrating the moment. Ruiz own goal. And we may have the first question answered tonight. Pittsburgh thrashing El Paso 2-0 in 20 minutes. Well, when you're the public address announcer, I'm confident you never anticipate having to say the opponent's name with gusto, but I appreciate that he did. I'm not so sure that Ricky Ruiz feels that way. And Pittsburgh pouring forward for more, another free kick. These set pieces have been devastating. That's Ortiz who commits the foul, quickly taken, slid ahead, Walty off the mark, but a corner.
Hey, Riverhounds fans, get up on your feet and make some noise. It's
Corner
time
for Mertz. And we tell you that Select is the official match ball supplier of the USL Championship. Many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit us.select-sport.com for the latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. Mertz has been electric. El Paso wise to that. And driven away by McLemore, who's been MIA to this point. El Paso hasn't gotten him on the ball at all. Comes down to Suber, who is forward off the corner.
It's been tough for El Paso to build any sort of offensive rhythm because of the front-footed nature that Pittsburgh Riverhounds are playing with. I mean, they are going from back to front at a rapid pace and pinning El Paso in. And that defensive posture for El Paso is just not allowing him to get the appropriate outlet going forward. It's putting Pittsburgh in a situation where they have good numbers behind the ball and they're able to slow any sort of transition or counterattack that El Paso threatens with. But going back to those set pieces, I mean, it's all about the delivery. I mean, obviously the quality runs are a big piece to it as well, but when you have the accuracy and putting it in such a position where it's so difficult to defend, that's something that when you're an ambitious side like Pittsburgh Riverhounds and not only want to make the playoffs, but want to make a run in the playoffs, set pieces are a way that you can absolutely stun opponents, and they've done that tonight.
Service from Mertz has been extraordinary. Created the own goal, assisted the opener by Kizza. Riverhounds up 2-0. Win and in, win, and they maintain the 7 seed. Meanwhile, Hartford's hopes have probably turned to North Carolina and Las Vegas. They need North Carolina to drop points to have a chance tonight to steal a spot on the last day in Orange County. Blackstock. Blackstock! Wait, don't tell me he's got it. And Dolenmeyer is down.
Referee allowing play to continue after the tackle there. And Blackstock tees it up on that left foot. And right now, Pittsburgh is unbalancing El Paso, creating a lot of opportunity along that left flank with Junior Etu. Robbie Mertz tucking into that half space, creating that channel for Etu to explode into. It's causing a lot of problems for El Paso right now, and El Paso is getting overshifted, leaving a lot of that space available at the top of the 18-yard box and that far post. We saw it with that deep service from Junior Etu that is called back for the foul.
Simano lets that run, driven away by Patrick Hogan. It was scoreless at halftime between Loudoun and Charleston. That game has heated up. Loudoun needs to win and create a four-way tie on 45 points. Should mean that both Pittsburgh and North Carolina would need to lose for them to get in on the third tiebreaker, which is conference points per game. As unlikely as that seems, they are taking Charleston to the wire with less than half an hour to play in Low Country. Conversely, another free kick here for Pittsburgh.
These fouls just continue to stack up for El Paso. They have to be careful. You see Ortiz talking to the center official, and he's got to be careful because he's been involved with a couple of these exchanges out in the wide area, giving Robbie Mertz another chance to put in what has been a clinic in delivery. When you have to enjoy from Pittsburgh is not only just the 2 goals that you've created off the set pieces, but the variety in which you've got to look at the setup.
That ball laced on the ground. Bit of a new phenomenon. Came here to Jockeson, tried to unload on it. This will run out.
Fans, we want to thank you for celebrating our 25th anniversary season with us. Now is your chance.
You hear the announcement in the stadium about the 25th anniversary of Riverhounds soccer in Pittsburgh. Paul Child stand packed yet again tonight.
Jersey and more. If interested, scan the QR code for a chance to win.
Flung to the far touchline. Held over by Arturo Ortiz. Pittsburgh pressing. They smell blood in the water. Ruiz dumps long, met by Hogan. Dick gave it away. Well, Escolto. And Griffin lofts out of play, or rather to the halfway line. 27 minutes gone. 10th minute go ahead from Kizza. Own goal right in the 18th from Ricky Ruiz. Quickly a 2-0 Riverhounds lead.
That's what you need to be careful of. Here the Pittsburgh Riverhounds is being casual in some of those moments, building out of the back, and living to fight another day where it's a clear opportunity to just put your foot through the ball and get that ball higher up the field, clear the lines. Just don't allow El Paso to gain any sort of footing in this match. Build some momentum. We've seen them do it throughout matches. What you don't want to do is create their opportunity for them.
This rolled out of play. El Paso will move quickly. Simano called for it. Smashes this into the path of Jockeson. That had to be dealt with. Another throw for Pittsburgh. Continue to push the pressure on El Paso.
Mentioned the problems that Etu is causing along that left side. You have to feel like they're building some momentum here on that right side with Blackstock and Jackson. Having a good connection, able to overload that wide area.
Blackstock to throw in the background, Wilmer Cabrera. Griffin. I think it was the Seriously Loco podcast down in El Paso that described the RGVification of El Paso. Wilmer Cabrera in, brought Jerson Echeverry along as his assistant. A number of players that featured for RGV over the years. So for a goal kick, you know, I was watching the Pat McAfee show, a clip that went viral online. JJ Watt's on. They talked to him a bit about Burnley. They talk about, of course, so many Pittsburgh natives involved in the making of that show, about Highmark Stadium, and JJ Watt was seemingly perplexed. He said, "This isn't real, right? This ball right up the gut from Wade." He said that has to be a rendering. It's right on the river, the stadiums and the city and the backdrop. There's no way that this is a real venue. It sure is, and what a night for it. The end of October, a playoff spot on the line, capping off year 25. What a night it is in the Steel City. Trying to extend the longest playoff run of any team in the city. This ball settled. Has kind of been contemplative. Here's Ruiz. Hangs the service, snap header off the mark.
Hey fans, we're having a flash sale. Head on down to the Riverhounds official team store, located next to the Corona Cantina.
Gotten off to that dream start they were looking for. 2 early goals, controlling the tempo. Ability to build through the 3 phases. Picking good moments to break lines of pressure. And the ability to work through the midfield of Griffin and Walty.
Hey fans, tonight's post-game meal for players and the coaching staff proudly provided by Fajita Pete's Tex-Mex Cantina and Catering, Pittsburgh's home for authentic, delicious Tex-Mex. Whether you're craving fresh fajitas, looking to cater your next event, Fajita Pete's has you covered. Visit in-store or online to taste the best Tex-Mex in town. I imagine El Paso would look forward to even having to play on the road, getting a little taste of home. Oh, wow, what a move. Etu sprinting by. He is an evasive dribbler. Drives in on Alfaro, has the overlap, and Mertz misfires.
Just the understanding, the recognition that Etu and Robbie Mertz are playing with, not playing on the same plane. One's inside, one's outside. The overlap here by Robbie Mertz, this left-footed delivery. Just continue to ask different questions of El Paso. And the timeliness of the runs inside the box have been tremendous from Pittsburgh.
I talked to Bob Lilly and he said we did not have an identity at the start of the year. It took longer than we would have hoped. You know, think back to the number of players that they lost over the offseason, including Waite in the goal down on the other end of the field. But Dos Santos, Farrell, Ibarra, Dequa, we're talking the spine front to back of your team. It did take a little bit longer than they anticipated, and yet they are plus 22 goal difference, best in the league over the last 15.5 games. Here's Dick off his line to corral. You know, Eric Dick and this Pittsburgh defense has actually conceded 1 goal fewer this year than they did last year. Dick is currently in position to win the Golden Gloves this year, which is an award that more often than not ends up in Pittsburgh. including with Danny Vitiello, who won it with the Hounds now in Sacramento.
That's a great point. And doing what goalkeepers at this level in terms of what your team needs you to do, coming up with game-changing saves game after game. And sometimes for goalkeepers, it's the save that you don't have to make that are the biggest, and it's that control, that communication of your back line, and then the line in front of that. But for Pittsburgh, talked about that identity and taking a bit longer this season, that defensive identity, that collective commitment to press, repress, get numbers behind the ball, win those duels in the final third.
Hey, Hounds fans, do you want to be featured on the scoreboard?
You know, there was a coach in the Eastern Conference a few years ago who said, yeah, you play everyone and they're different. But he said, Bob Lilly's teams will press you when you're going to the bathroom. And
that's terrific.
For about 100 different reasons, I can't get that thought out of my head. But I think it's a good way to describe there's a mentality that you need to play with in Pittsburgh to be successful. And this group is totally bought in. At the beginning of the year, it took a moment, but the winningest coach in league history as this group, firing on all cylinders at the right time.
I think with people, they don't understand that sometimes, like, that is the pressure to play in training as well. When you press the way they press, it's not an occasional thing. It's not when you press when you feel like the moment's ready or reading pressing cues. It is on all the time, and it takes time to do that because you got to climb the field in those moments. You have to make sure that you're switched on, and sometimes you can get picked apart if you're not collective in those moments and in those situations. And you talked about the goals against average and the goals conceded. I mean, it's just been terrific what they've done this season.
You know, they gave up 20 in the first 18 games, and most teams would love that. Ultimately, a handful of goals that they deemed a bit loose or at the wrong time. I mean, 4 or 5 results flipping to the negative at the end of games. A handful on the last kick of the game this year certainly inhibited their ability to get going come midseason. Really, it was July 6th. It turned at the inflection point, just 1 loss since then. But, you know, this Riverhounds team, more often than not, is going to get on a run like this, and they've only conceded 8 in the time since. Player down is Dolenmeyer. And we are not going to show the current vision of it, but I'm not sure it's going to be that difficult to explain once you see the initial shot of it. Well, this is a generational injury for Noah Dolenmeyer, I believe.
Not a great feeling right now.
There is no way that helps.
Yeah.
There is no way shaking out your legs is making a difference right now.
Yeah, you can almost see as soon as trainer started, it was painful. Going back to Pittsburgh defensively, I mean,
yeah, that's a good idea.
three straight shutouts, clean sheets for Pittsburgh, and
with the season on the line, every week.
Yep, absolutely. So playing up to that pressure and playing with that experience that we spoke about earlier in the match, that we were looking if that would carry them through a match like this, playing an El Paso side that was playing with nothing to lose, was coming off some big results. But they have been up to the task here early. That 2-0 lead, and we already talked about and only 1 loss in this season when they score first. Now being up 2 goals, you can't imagine that feels like it's a mountain to climb.
El Paso playing with 10 for the moment. I know he's on the other team, but Dollenmeyer coming back onto the field deserves a hero's applause. And here he comes.
No hero's applause.
No. I'm not sure the fans, maybe they do, understand precisely what went on there. Meanwhile, elsewhere, that Charleston match tonight carries no weight for the Battery, although they'd love to get some momentum going into the postseason, but does carry weight for Loudoun. Battery get a goal from Arturo Rodriguez in the 68th. Torres opened the scoring in the 51st. Kwame Awuwa scored an equalizer for Loudoun. 2-1 Battery, 80th minute. Anything less than a win would eliminate Loudoun tonight. Loudoun needs a multi-team pileup on 45 points. Can't have anyone above that 45 other than Pittsburgh to have a chance. They have the second best in-conference points per game, the third tiebreaker. Could put them over North Carolina and Hartford at 45 points, but it doesn't seem that that's the way this is going, at least not yet. Not the least of which because Loudoun in fact trails.
For El Paso, they would really enjoy the ability to change this narrative going into the break. Look to create a loud opportunity, whether that be in the run of play or a set piece. We've talked about how Pittsburgh has changed this game on 2 free kicks. Paso yet to create anything in that attacking third that would either draw a set piece, a free kick, or a clear-cut opportunity on goal. A lot of their possession, a lot of their build has been through the back and through the middle. As soon as they hit that attacking third, sputters out, but credit to Pittsburgh. Ability to cover those channels, screen passes, make it difficult for El Paso to play into some of those progressive spaces.
Ortiz roll back. Check out all the exciting postseason action. The USL playoffs presented by Terminix kick off in November. The top teams will battle it out for the ultimate prize. Go to USLChampionship.com for all the latest playoff information. El Paso's out, although they've had a strong back half of the season. Side that's been to multiple Western Conference finals in their young history. Year 6, 4 playoff appearances. They'll miss out here. They got in last year despite really struggling down the stretch of the season. That carried over to the beginning of this year. That led to Brian Claerhaut's dismissal. Wilmer Cabrera coming in. Took a little while to get going. A big win at Charleston early on. They had gone 11 winless at home. They've since gone 1 loss in their last 7. Southwest University Park in El Paso, much improved. Little give and go. This drops in for Ortiz. Chopped back out.
This is what El Paso's looking for, is getting McLemore more involved in that final third, because that'll make the game for Escoto and Moshaban. The ability to work off that central player. See him sitting on that midfield space. I think Calvillo climbed the field, plays almost that central forward.
Whistle against Griffin. And the yellow is going to come out to Griffin, who seems dumbfounded. That'll allow the athletic trainer to come out and have a look.
There's a yellow card against Pittsburgh.
This is going to be an area for El Paso that they want to take advantage of. They want to make something dangerous of this free kick, as we see Griffin going through the back. Calvillo earning this free kick. We talked about the delivery of Robbie Mertz. That's going to be on Moshaban to put this in an area where his teammates can get that slightest of touches, or as we saw for that second goal for Pittsburgh, put defenders in a precarious situation where they get the slightest touches and becomes difficult to deal with for Eric Dick.
And El Paso nick one before halftime. Moshaban, the header was there. It will run askew. It is a corner. Found McLemore running, took a deflection. It appeared off Hogan. Corner to El Paso. And Moshaban will take this as well. 30-year-old from South Africa, spent the last 4 years at San Diego. Moshaban offering. Osamanu got there. There was a whistle as well.
See on that free kick that McLemore did a great job of meeting that ball at its highest point, but always climbing, getting that deflection, earning the corner, but that delivery there from Moshaban, the foul turns it right over to Pittsburgh.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be
3 minutes of stoppage time.
3 minutes.
McLemore all the way back. Driven away by Dick. Calvillo. Good find. Stauffer. And this will eventually get to Dick. Pass from Amari Ascolto. We'd be remiss not to mention a major loss to the soccer community in the state of Pennsylvania, within USL, within MLS circles. The Philadelphia Union announcing that 25-year-old goalkeeper Holden Trent passed away today. Second-year player out of High Point, played in USL League Two with South Georgia Tormenta 2, drafted in the first round by the Union in 2023. The Union season just ended this past weekend. I think all the thoughts of Pennsylvanians, of USL and MLS fans, soccer fans in general, all our thoughts with the Trent family. Simply devastating news. Just the age of 25. Ball forward here for Pittsburgh, and down to Jamali Waite. Approaching halftime tonight in Western Pennsylvania.
What'll be fascinating is how each of these sides approach the second half. You go into a break with a 2-0 lead. Do you take your foot off the gas? Do you pick and choose your moments? Or do you go and try to take absolutely everything and find that third goal, create that third moment, and put this game out of reach? And for El Paso, how do you find that balance between playing open and that bit more structure offensively in terms of the distances, the proximity, the ability to create some of the opportunities they've done here in this last 5-10 minutes?
Blackstock laces through. Big challenge. One that goes without a whistle. Well done by Alfaro, who's on a yellow card. Had to get that right.
timely
Corrigan
intervention
just
there.
looked at his watch again. I'm not sure there's much time left. Yeah, Blackstock took that right into the break. 2-0 Pittsburgh at halftime.
It'll be a balance for El Paso. How do you go find the first goal, cut this lead in half? You're going to be looking at that first 10, 15 minutes. They're going to look to that, but also not concede that third. And for Pittsburgh, it's been about free kicks, set pieces, but you've started to create some momentum on the ball. You've started to create, obviously, Etu has been dangerous on the ball, and then Jacqueson and Blackstock have been terrific along that right flank as well.
2-0 Hounds here. Meanwhile, another goal and carry right before halftime. Olex Anderson in the 45th minute of play. It's another set piece that undoes Las Vegas. All right. That probably deserves an explanation. Kissa's the hero on this night in this locale. It's Hartford that would be on the outside looking in alongside Loudoun. Pittsburgh and North Carolina both leading, trying to ensure their place in the postseason on the last day. Not ready to kiss their season goodbye just yet. Halftime is presented by 84 Lumber, and it's coming your way next.
Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa.
Nice. A little salt, a little sweet.
And a little scratch.
Ah, the new big cash payout.
Top prizes of 500 grand.
You've been down this road before.
Let's just say I'm a road hog. Keep on scratching!
We're not the universe's window company. We're not the world's window company. And we're not the nation's window company. Thermo Twin is Pittsburgh's window company.
Pittsburgh is our home. Check in with Thermo Twin. We are employee owned. Check in with Thermo Twin.
Check in now and get 25% off and 36-month interest-free financing.
Check in with Thermo Twin.
Halftime is presented by 84 Lumber Company. From the Steel City of Pittsburgh, release the Hounds. 2-0 Pittsburgh over El Paso. And the Riverhounds want to thank you for celebrating the 25th anniversary season with them. Now your chance to win our ultimate prize pack featuring a suite for a 2025 Riverhounds home game, a stay at the DoubleTree by Hilton, a team signed jersey, and more.
What's up, Riverhound fans? It's your friendly neighborhood host, Kyle Archer here, and I want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of our 25th year anniversary here at Highmark Stadium of professional soccer in Western Pennsylvania. You joined us as we launched a new look for the Hounds in our new Charlie kits. You were there on opening night when the lights went out and the show began. You were there when Conrado Forbes broke the team record for Riverhounds appearances. You were there to see Nate Dragicic become the first Academy player to sign a pro contract and make his debut with the Riverhounds. And you witnessed Bob Lilly win his 400th professional game. You were there for the biggest sellout crowd in the regular season. You bought enough jerseys to go up and down the Duquesne Incline 7 times. You drank enough alcohol that if we filled up a car, no, not on gasoline, but on alcohol, it'd take a trip around this beautiful earth 5 times. You should be proud of that one, Pittsburgh. And you were there for all 21 splashdowns of the season so far. You were there when we made Highmark Stadium feel a little more like home as we unveiled the newest addition, that stunning mural painted by Cody Sable. You were there when we made history and added a new member to our Riverhounds family. That's right, the Pittsburgh Riveters. And you were there during the 25th year anniversary for the Riverhounds season. And you were there during our 12-game sellout crowd experience. And now it's your chance to enter and scan the QR code for your chance to win a 25-item prize pack. With that being said, best of luck and let's go Hounds!
Is it somebody's birthday? Dad, come watch us hit this ugly piñata. Dad!
When Hornets show up, so do we. Terminix it.
New flavors. The same traditions. Be the guest of honor. Add more flavor to your parties. El Jimador. Spiked Bebidas.
Welcome to Do or Die. Welcome to stories that give meaning to it all. The juggernaut chasing history. The hero hoping for a Hollywood ending. The upstart determined to make the most of its shot at glory. Welcome to second-guessing everything. Every coach's decision. Every referee's call. Every pass, shot, tackle, save. Because you know it all means more now. Welcome to the playoffs.
When mosquitoes show up, so do we. Terminix it.
Yeah, trick. I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead.
At the confluence of three rivers, Pittsburgh a 2-0 lead over El Paso, and our halftime coverage is presented by 84 Lumber Company. Trains running through the backdrop. We take a look at news and notes around the USL Championship and beyond. They're presented by Tiger Balm. Nate Steinwasser scoring a penalty in stoppage time in a game. They're already up 2-1. Do you like that?
Love it.
Oh,
no,
all right.
it's yeah, I know. Yeah, no, it's and then Enzo Martinez that continues to. I'm going to move on from that. Enzo Martinez just continues to have a tremendous career. Over 50 assists in his career, second behind Dane Kelly in terms of combined goals and assists. And then Rhode Island setting the record for draws in the season. And you thought early on, moving into the midway of the season, you thought those draws were going to come to negatively affect Rhode Island and Connor Smith's side's ability for their playoff aspirations, but it's come full circle in terms of those points have mattered, and they've found themselves right inside the playoffs.
Very much turned out not to be death by 1,000 draws, but just enough to keep them afloat in their expansion season. They are going to the playoffs. Meanwhile, plenty of action around the USL Championship. Let's start in the East. Louisville wins, and they tie Phoenix's record for most wins in a season at 24. Ironically, it's rising ahead inside 10 minutes tonight at Lynn Family Stadium.
Yeah, it's early on, but you know that Lou City side going to continue to push, find the equalizer, and try to pick up that points record. And Tampa Bay, Manuel Arteaga with an early penalty to put the Rowdies up 1-0 on Indy 11.
Meanwhile, Loudoun's season is over. No chance for them to move on now. And then we showed you the North Carolina, Las Vegas highlights throughout the first half. This is what remains tonight, the final 5 games of the campaign. If you're Hartford, you need either El Paso to come back or Las Vegas to come back, or that game's going to be meaningless for them tonight.
It's going to be tough. I mean, I know it's difficult when you go into the final weekend and you need some scores to go your way because you're just wishing and hoping, but it's about executing in your match as well.
And if Memphis wins against New Mexico, who are locked into the 1, Sacramento and Colorado Springs are going to play on the last night for the right to host a playoff game in the Western Conference. The other could slip to 5th. So massive implications down the stretch. Meanwhile, Oakland has a chance to exchange positions with Orange County pending that result as well. Detroit will play at home for the first time in their history in the championship in the postseason. San Antonio already eliminated. Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh tonight. The Riverhounds knew it was winning in, and they're holding up their end of the bargain. They'll look at the first half highlights. Second half coming up. Our halftime coverage has been presented by 84 Lumber Company.
At AHN, good heart care starts before you're just not feeling right. Before you say, it'll go away on its own. Before it doesn't. Because before an emergency, there's time to stop heart problems with a simple preventative heart check. At AHN, we see you.
We're not the universe's window company. We're not the world's window company. And we're not the nation's window company. Thermo Twin is Pittsburgh's window company.
Pittsburgh is our home. Check in with Thermo Twin. We are employee owned. Check in with Thermo Twin.
Check in now and get 25% off and 36-month interest-free financing.
Check in with Thermo Twin.
Unplug and reconnect to the things that matter most with a long fall weekend in the Laurel Highlands. Embrace sweater weather surrounded by the glorious colors of autumn. Enjoy the stunning architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright, a scenic mountain drive, or a challenging bike trail. Think falling leaves, pumpkin festivals, s'mores by the campfire, and stops along an exciting craft beverage trail. Make lasting family memories with a 3 or 4 night stay in a cozy cabin. Start planning now at GoLaurelHighlands.com.
Tonight's match is presented in part by the 84 Lumber Company. Light show in Pittsburgh, and it was certainly a show for the Riverhounds in the first half, Eric.
And you felt like in possession, Pittsburgh was playing on that front foot, but it was about free kicks, and Robbie Mertz on the ball. This delivery, Edward Kizza just needs to get a touch on it. That glancing header, nothing that Jamali Waite could do. He was already moving forward, trying to deal with that traffic in front. Edward Kizza beats his player to the spot, and then they continued to put that pressure on El Paso, and that pressure mounted to another free kick opportunity, and this time that traffic in front, those initial runs on that first goal caused this mix-up here. Ricky Ruiz trying to just get the slightest of touches off, and you see Blackstock there on that back post, and that slightest touch now from Ricky Ruiz puts the ball in his own net, makes it 2-0, and for El Paso, it was just a difficult kind of start to overcome. They sputtered to kind of regain that momentum. Defensively, they got pinned in a bit. What kind of changes do they look to make as we see Moreno on now, and how do they kind of move that defensive posture into maybe an attacking presence?
Those match highlights were presented by Corona. Here is Armando Moreno, 6 goals in 28 games, just his 4th appearance off the bench this year. He replaces Malik McLemore, whose 4th appearance ends without really much of a chance to get on the ball and make an impact. On to the second half here in Pittsburgh. The Riverhounds 2 goals ahead against El Paso. You know, we spoke with Bob Lilly. Maybe last year they didn't handle it the best way. They win the Players' Shield, they fall to Detroit. Said all the expectation was on them. He addressed his team on Wednesday in training. Said, guys, you seem a little tight. Now the expectation is shifted. You've caught everyone that you have been chasing for months. Well, the Hounds have certainly played as well as they have all season in that first half. They stifled El Paso, to say the least. That's a foul against Moreno, the hugely dangerous attacking player off the bench for the Locomotive tonight.
I think stifled El Paso and frustrated them in that first 45. 2 yellow cards, one to Calvillo and one to Alfaro, as we see now Moreno's first action in the match is conceding a foul, albeit deeper than it's been in the past, but still the delivery is going to be important. Now it's about second and third actions. They play short.
If I told you that Malik McLemore touched the ball 16 times, fewest on the field, I wouldn't have believed that it was 16.
Yeah, the involvement was low. And I think that's where you saw that shift towards the end of that first half, was the touches from McLemore and what it caused and what it allowed from Escoto and Moshaban, the involvement from in those wide areas. And again, another free kick conceded from El Paso. And
they found McLemore here at the end of the season, mostly in the 3rd, 4th division. Picked him up out of the German thrift shop, pun intended. Mertz, Suber, bounces, Hogan didn't go. Had Jacqueson in front of goal as well, and between the two, it ultimately caroms out of play. But again, danger off a set piece.
Yeah, the awareness to know that he's overrun this ball in terms of where that far post is, and Suber just having to put this ball back across for Jacqueson. An opportunity for that ball to fall down and him to put it on frame. Just puts it to the right of Jamali Waite.
Kizza ran up to Jamali Waite, those two teammates, for about a year and a half. Kizza arrived on loan from New England. It was right before the 2022 playoffs that he found out that his option with the Revs wasn't going to be picked up. So what started as a loan ended up being his chance to really make a mark on the Riverhounds staff to eventually keep him around. Did re-sign in 23, had his best season yet here in 2024. Bags his 12th goal of the season here tonight, which might be the one that clinches the playoffs. Want to take a moment and say that in the aftermath of both Hurricanes Helene and Milton, the USL has partnered with United Way Suncoast to help the Tampa Bay area recover from the devastation the storm left behind. Learn how you can get involved. Scan the QR code or visit uslsoccer.com/Milton to ensure individuals and families have the access to resources they need to recover. Ball dropped off here for Pittsburgh and eventually crashes away from Griffin. That blocked en route and comes all the way out to the halfway line. Pittsburgh playing here tonight, trying to garner one of the last 2 playoff spots. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay, mentioned there a moment ago, up 2-0 in their game against Indy. The Rowdies ultimately drew Hartford on Wednesday night in a makeup game due to Hurricane Helene. They're playing in Bradenton at IMG Academy. Al Lang Stadium unavailable, and obviously everyone saw the devastation to Tropicana Field, the home to the Rays, which is owned, like the Rowdies, by Stu Sternberg. But 2-0 up on Indy. They won on Wednesday night against Hartford. They could have been playing for a home playoff game. Instead, that's already decided. Tampa Bay appears poised to go to Indy in the first round of the playoffs if these current results hold. If Indy were to come back and win that game, they could overtake Detroit, who play later tonight. Louisville and Charleston already set in the Eastern Conference 1-2. Wilson Harris a brace tonight. They've grabbed the lead back from Phoenix. Ball down into the right side channel. That'll carry them out and be a goal kick. Meanwhile, in the bottom half of the standings, really you're deciding where you're going to play. If you're Pittsburgh and you hold on to this result, you'll finish 7th and you'll go to Charleston in the first round next weekend. North Carolina, should they hold on, would go to Louisville. Here's a look at the live standings. Hartford plays later tonight. They need to have more points than Pittsburgh or North Carolina. They do not hold tiebreakers over either. Loudoun and Birmingham both eliminated. Ball across, and the header snapped in to Dick.
What an opportunity there by El Paso. And we talked about stacking momentum and performances for them to close out the season. That's a situation that they want to continue to build on.
Good build through Etu. Etu lets fly. Have to flex back into the orbit of Ortiz. Moshaban. Karam's into the stands.
Etu has been a handful tonight for El Paso. He has come in and done what he does best, dynamic on the dribble. Mentioned the decisiveness, the ability to draw defenders and command that attention, and earning those free kicks that have led to the 2 goals for Pittsburgh. First one right on that edge of the corner of the 18, and that one deep at the end line.
Akinyoti. Ball bounces over, snapped over the foot of Moshaban. Stauffer maintains. Back heel, here's Lucas Stauffer again. Slid inside and denied by Walty. And this will run out in front of Robert Coronado, who's set to come in a moment. Forgot a moment, they'll do it right now. That's it for Bolu Akinyoti. His 30th appearance and 20th start of the season is a 53-minute excursion in Pittsburgh.
Robert Coronado.
Played on the other side of a Keystone Derby rivalry with Bethlehem for a number of years, which probably leaves a familiar note for Pittsburgh fans. He is still built like a brick house, Bolu Akinyoti, and he's still among the better holding midfielders in the league. Ball rolled out here to Stauffer. Glides in, a little bit of contact, kept his feet. Coronado unloads. Fresh into the game, in his first touch, he went for glory.
What an introduction that would have been. As you mentioned, just unloads this left-footed strike, and clever play out wide by Stauffer, pulling 2 Pittsburgh defenders towards him, freeing up that space for Coronado. Just unleashes this take from distance. Talk about that being your first play on the ball. For Pittsburgh, as this match wears on, does that human element start? I know that defensively, this team has a clear-cut identity, but does that human element of preserving a 2-0 lead and not giving anything to El Paso, does that start to creep in?
Jacqueson, slide from Dolenmeyer, who's still putting his body on the line. I probably would have called it a day already. Nevertheless, Blackstock. Alfaro leaning in. Wins a goal kick.
Saying you would ask for a sub at halftime?
I would have asked for a sub
when it happened.
I don't know what his bonuses are. I'm not trying to suggest anything. I'm just saying sometimes it's best to just let a sleeping dog lie. Ten minutes gone in this second half. Jamali Waite, what an incredible story. Invitational tryout. They loved his habits, his athleticism, his shot stopping out of UConn. 2 years in Pittsburgh. Great run in the Open Cup, really solidified his job. Ultimately, Andre Blake's injury with the Jamaican national team opened the door to him having a huge game against Mexico in the Copa America this summer. It introduced him to a lot of fans on the international stage. But in El Paso, he's held the job the vast majority of the season. 27th start this year This is a guy who was cut by Hartford, of all places, in February of 2022. If he hadn't been cut, he never lands in Pittsburgh. And who knows how his career is right now. Ultimately, the latest success story of those invitational tryouts that have become so famous in Pittsburgh.
And right now, not the result that Jamali Waite was hoping for in terms of being down 2-0, but you mentioned it. It has to be a special return to Pittsburgh. I mean, Players' Shield last year, the career that he had in the 2 seasons, and really launching his professional career here.
From the other side of the Keystone State in Philadelphia. Ball outside. Touchdown to Coronado. Offers service and a looping header that's pulled in by Eric Dick, who himself has done a tremendous job reinvigorating his career, grabbing the starting job this year. 30-year-old from Kansas, signed out of Butler, and since leaving Kansas City in 2019 had played just 11 games over 3 years in Columbus and Minnesota. But he grabbed the starting job here in the middle of the season, ran with it, and very well could be the Golden Glove winner in the championship this season.
75 years over at Eaton Park as we're celebrating a milestone. And the way that we're doing that is giving out cookies to
And there's times where we continue to talk about throughout the season some of the key departures, Albert Dequa from Pittsburgh, but there's also, I mean, all those stories are of players thriving here in Pittsburgh and thriving here in the identity of what they can do.
Farrell, Ordonez, Ibarra.
Yep. The list goes on and on. I mean, Jamali Waite, I mean, you talk about Eric Dick kind of reinvigorating his career. I mean, you mentioned Edward Kizza just a few moments ago.
Russell Cicerone, now in Sacramento, has had a number of 15-goal seasons, but really sparked his career with the Riverhounds. Nico Brett had his best years here. And Edward Kizza having his best season up front this year as well. Goalkeeper is such an unforgiving position, right? If you're Jamali Waite and you don't grab hold of that job in Pittsburgh in that limited stint in the Open Cup that saw them dispatch Columbus right before they sort of went on this dynastic run, that's really well done to win a goal kick. Who knows how it ends? If you're Eric Dick, you played 11 games in 3 years right at the commencement of your prime. And it's not to say you're any better or worse than the goalkeeper in front of you at a given time. Though Tim Melia in Kansas City, certainly a legendary force for that club. You need the opportunity to come to you, and then you need to make the best of it in that limited scope. He's certainly done that this year. Ball lofted into Mertz. He's had quite a night. Able to get this inside. There's Kizza. Kizza off the mark. Waite did well to force Kizza into a tougher angle. That deflected. It will be a corner.
And just look at this commitment from Robbie Mertz, knowing that this challenge right here from Alfaro is going to come. The ability to get up there and just clip this ball into a running Edward Kizza, who pushes this ball just past that left post of Jamali Waite. What an outlet pass. This spell is not over. Robbie Mertz right on this ball for a corner kick.
Mertz delivering. Had the run of Hogan behind, and if that had just narrowly gotten over the top, that's a tap in. And the whistle goes here. Hogan was coming from an offside position. Pittsburgh made the playoffs every year since 2018. Only Louisville has gone to the playoffs more years in a row. They date to their inaugural season in 2015. A 2018 run commenced the moment Bob Lilly arrived from Rochester. His 7th season at the helm. King Kenny is available off the bench tonight. Canardo Forbes set to make the playoffs for a 7th consecutive year in Pittsburgh. Plus you can add a number of years in Rochester, including his championship winning campaign in 2015. Won the double that year. Etu, advantage played by Matthew Corrigan. Walty remains down. Pittsburgh continued to advance. Walty really shaken up.
And it looked like Edward Kizzo wanted to make sure that the official knew to go back to this play from Ortiz.
The way Pittsburgh has handled set pieces tonight, and given that El Paso had already been sitting, you're probably saying, no, really, we don't want the advantage, just call the foul.
Yeah, that might be what Kizzo was telling the official as well, as he does concede to the yellow card to Ortiz.
It's not often that you see that, but I mean, this is a knockout how Pittsburgh's attacked in the run of play. It's just a statement that they have been devastating on set pieces.
Yeah, at that point, what do? You just turn the ball over or just kick
no,
the ball? Yeah, kick the ball out of bounds.
That's the 4th yellow in 7 games for Ortiz. If he's here all year next year, you could probably bank on a yellow card suspension, but he's going to get out of this. Meanwhile, Kizza's been shown yellow, and with his hands extended, I'm not sure he knows entirely why either.
Multitasking, defending and pressing and
dissenting.
Yeah, exactly.
There's Griffin. That's going to run out. And let's remind you that if you can't watch the match, turn on SiriusXM FC 157. It's North America's only 24/7 source for engaging soccer talk, including USL All Access. This Tuesday at a special time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Usually 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday night. Plus your live matches, USL, MLS, Premier League, and more. It's all on SiriusXM FC channel 157 and the new SiriusXM app. There you go. Yeah, the announcement did not match the card, so it's not Kizza. He's clean. It is Arturo Ortiz shown the yellow card. To reiterate his not so exemplary disciplinary record, that's 4 in 7 games for him. Here's Stauffer. Contact from Etu. He's probably lucky. Whether that was in or out of the area, the line is considered in. Really tight. It's only a corner.
That was close, and you think if Stauffer almost commits himself to going to ground, you put that referee in a difficult position to make that call where, as you mentioned, it's right on that line.
But by hook or by crook, Dick will celebrate Etu's sturdy tackle that leads to a corner. Chabon goes short. Lined up top for Ricky Ruiz. Ruiz. Hogan did not know best there. Did not get out of the way. Chabon. Hogan hobbled a bit. Ball knocked back. Calvillo setting up a bike. That didn't go. Sent away by Suber. Still it's on here for the Locomotive. There's still a lot of time for this to get really chaotic. Calvillo. Central from Coronado. He gets the return. Back out to Calvillo, one of the best dead ball players in the league. Flicks inside. Loose touch and contact from Etu. That will be a free kick.
And now to your point, Calvillo stepping right into this spot. We see the foul here by Junior Etu. Got away with that early one, and Stauffer just conceding the corner.
Fuson and Williams, one assist the other. A golden assist apiece. Rhode Island 2-0 ahead in their game tonight against Miami FC, who've locked up the wooden spoon with time to spare. They're on pace to finish with 11 points in 34 games. Other than the full losing season of Antigua Barracuda, it is the worst season in championship history. And given the context, I think you could very easily argue it is the worst season in league history. Rhode Island taking them to the woodshed in the first half tonight. Ball lobbed in, knocked off of Blackstock into the Paul Child stand, corner coming. It is all chalk tonight outside of Indy trailing Tampa Bay. Rhode Island, with that result, keep pace with Tampa, move to 5th. They would go to Indy on opening day of the playoffs. Ball bounding up and away. Tampa would go to Detroit. Pittsburgh would go to Charleston. North Carolina would go to Louisville if all these results stand as is. If Pittsburgh falter and El Paso pulls level, Hartford could jump them. If North Carolina's 2-1 lead dissipates against Las Vegas tonight in Cary, then Hartford can jump them. Still 25 minutes and what could be a wild judgment day still to be had in the Eastern Conference. But to reiterate, Miami's judgment has already passed. To the river Styx with them. Corner for Calvillo. No, it's Moshaban who plays it across. Ball knocked down. And there's Dick high pointing it, coming off his line. That became really tantalizing right in the goal mouth.
El Paso getting clever here with this free kick, this corner. Setting up Moshaban and Calvillo out there in that wide space, and they elect to go with the left-footed outswinger. Plenty of time for El Paso to continue to look to spoil this result for Pittsburgh. You could feel them growing into this second half, picking good moments, finding quality in those half spaces. Still having to deal with Junior Eto out here in this left flank.
Walty, brilliant ball in behind, and the save from Waite. Turns away Griffin, the offside flag up anyways, and the two teammates acknowledge each other in that moment.
This is the attention out wide from Eto, and then, wow, clipped in ball just left. A split second too early.
Triple sub. There is Luke Biasi, Bradley Sample, and the undisputed GOAT. Most appearances, most assists in league history. There is King Kenny. Bernardo Forbes in off the bench, approaching 300 regular season games. First three changes, first window for Pittsburgh. El Paso's used 2 subs, 1 came at the half. Mertz comes off 2,500 minutes this year. 8 goal contributions, 3 goals, 5 assists. Came up with a huge night from free kicks and corners this evening. That's what ultimately has Pittsburgh poised to reach the playoffs. Coronado, that bangs off of Forbes. Restarted off the handball, Moshaban. Floats into Stauffer. Quaffs inside. Ooh. Moreno gonna see yellow for that. As much for the physicality as for the moment, catching Biasi. Welcome to the match.
This is some of the frustration that's carried itself from the first half. Getting dispossessed in that attacking third, and absolutely tackling Biasi, and
yellow card against El Paso, number 10, Armando Moreno.
Pittsburgh gonna take these moments, take the air out of the ball. No reason to go quick on these restarts. Actually, you see precious time tick away.
I think one of the big takeaways from the last 2 games for Pittsburgh, beating Charleston and beating Loudoun, so the team that was right next to them, a 6-point game, Loudon last game, and Bob Lilly admitted we had to work our asses off to have a chance come away with the points in that game. That's a playoff caliber team by any measure, even if they're going to miss out on the last day. And Charleston, who theory had nothing to play for, but they're trying to get their momentum, get their groove back. But they got the first goal, fine, but they got the second. And that's, I think, going to be the telling thing here against El Paso. They were able to go grab the second, take the sting out of the game, and that gives you the ability to take the air out of the ball in the second half.
It does, and that's such truth. So many games come down to, are you ruthless in that moment where you can go find the second? Great ball.
Forbes, there's Waite, a little tap for Kizza.
Jamali Waite, very aware of what was to come, but you're absolutely right. It's teams. We talk about those 15 draws for Rhode Island. It's sometimes finding those moments where you could stretch the lead. Obviously, those 15 points came up big for Rhode Island.
But a lot of them were dropped from a winning position throughout the season, and not just, you know, you score in the second minute and you concede it in the fourth. I mean, we're talking last kick of the game stuff. Both Rhode Island and Pittsburgh must feel snake bit this season. Both could be in home playoff position if they had handled business at the tail end of games throughout the year. But ultimately, you could argue both are better for the learning along the way.
Yeah, and to your point, those are sometimes the most delicate conversations that have to happen within teams, because you want to make sure that you are learning from those experiences. You're closing out games, whether it's finishing out those final minutes, if you're holding a tight lead, a 1-0, a 2-1, but also helping your team understand that those opportunities that you have chances to put games away and stretch that lead are so important. But you also don't want to stress your team out to the point where those moments come to absolutely influence some of those final actions.
Former Riverhound Marky Barra has added a third for Rhode Island tonight. They are pouring it on Miami and leaving the regular season in style. What a night for Rhode Island. And in the East tonight, the rich have gotten richer. Ball pinged across by Stauffer. Jacqueson, that over the line, throw for Pittsburgh. Watch the USL Championship in Spanish on TUDN, the nation's leading Spanish language sports network. Select matches throughout this season, and now the championship final, available in Spanish throughout the remainder of the campaign. Go to USLChampionship.com for the complete USL TV listings.
865 Gold to learn more and place your deposit.
Sample. I remember talking to Oscar Jimenez, who's at Memphis now, longtime Louisville player, when games were on ESPN Deportes over the years. He said it was such a big deal for his family. They live up in Washington, to be able to listen to games in a native tongue. So TUDN stepping in this year mid-season, taking on a number of championship matches. Certainly vital to the championship. Look forward to having my compatriots on the call for the final on November 23rd. Game in English will be on network television for the first time on CBS. A noon kickoff, no matter what time zone we're in, it'll be noon Eastern for the championship final on November 23rd. And you know something, if you're Pittsburgh, it would be easy to go, man, even at 7th, 8th, it's going to be difficult to see a path. Phoenix did it last year out of the 6. Never got a home game, and they just kept unseating teams above them. It was incredible. The Hounds are on the kind of heater that could lead you to believe they've got that in the tank. Ball driven across, came off Moreno.
El Paso would love to make this game stressful. If they could score in the next few minutes, they would make this stadium and this team a bit tense to finish this match up.
if Pittsburgh were to drop points tonight, North Carolina leads against Las Vegas in Cary. They would have to wait to see if Hartford were to drop points in Orange County. So even a draw tonight could be catastrophic to Pittsburgh, as well as they've played the second half of the year trying to get into the playoffs. It is still 2-1 to North Carolina. NCFC trailed that game in less than 10 minutes. Paco Craig, the equalizer, minutes later, grabbing the lead before halftime. We might be signed, sealed, delivered in the East in about 15 minutes, or we may see all hell break loose.
There's no question that Pittsburgh is going to continue to push to find that third goal, put this game, secure this game and pull this out of reach. But for Pittsburgh, there's two goals in the first half early, off free kicks. You talk about teams, you talked about Phoenix earlier, about that run they made last year. The matches previous for Pittsburgh to put themselves in a position where win and get into the playoffs. So we see El Paso.
Ball line across and that return to sender.
But these are scenarios and situations you can't necessarily draw up in training.
Stauffer, there's contact from behind from Walty, but not enough to draw a whistle. Off of Jockeson, kept alive. Askew off of Hogan. This needs to be a little more firm from Pittsburgh, and now it is.
And this is the exact scenario, is you play goal up, goal down. You have a 2-goal lead with 15 minutes left. How do you play out those scenarios as you go into the playoffs where it's one and done? It's extremely important to not only recognize your role, but execute your role in those moments in matches.
Ball knotted centrally, never got through. No, it's a immensely unforgiving sport to have one and dones. This Pittsburgh team knows it. Dominic Gasso, late game winner for Detroit in the 8-1 game. Few gave them a chance against the Players' Shield winning Pittsburgh Riverhounds. This sent toward goal and into the waiting hands of Dick. We do want to thank fans for celebrating the 25th anniversary season with the Hounds. Now your chance to win the ultimate prize pack, featuring a suite for a 2025 Riverhounds home game, stay at the Doubletree by Hilton, a team-signed jersey, and more. Scan the QR code for your chance to win.
Or online to taste the best Tex-Mex in town. Fajita Pete's, fresh, simple, and always delicious.
Stauffer. Griffin. Found Walty around the outside.
Stauffer is a player for El Paso that has been lively here in this second half. Poor giveaway there at midfield leads to a quick transition moment for Pittsburgh. Walty unable to put this ball back across the face of goal.
Joaquin Rivas in for Escolto off the bench. Rivas, the El Salvador international, just his 24th appearance of the season. Brought in from Miami. Talk about a guy who's been around forever now, huh? Sacramento, Tulsa, St. Louis, Miami, now in El Paso. About 36 caps for the Salvadoran national team. Kizza, 10 minutes to go.
Paso, can you go a bit quicker than this? You've just allowed Pittsburgh to get all their numbers back behind the ball, and this is where Pittsburgh is comfortable. Getting into their shape, applying pressure on every ball that is played, climbing the field at the right moments.
Around the outside, flustered by Osamano. 5,748 at Highmark Stadium tonight. Likely the final home game of the year. For them to ultimately host a playoff game would mean hosting a 7 or 8 in the West in the final, or the 8, likely North Carolina, in the Eastern Conference final. Neither very likely at all. That ball whistles through and out for a goal kick.
Fans here were treated to an explosive start from their side. They've managed moments well. They've managed momentum. They've managed the tempo and some of the opportunities that El Paso have created.
And taking his place, number 4, Danny Rovira.
Second window, fourth sub. Bob Lilly offers some coaching points to Jockeson. It's only his 7th appearance for the club on loan from Real Salt Lake. And the native Frenchman went to College Cup twice at the University of Pittsburgh. Checks out his focus. He believes his turn toward the playoffs. A yellow to Dick. That is a time-wasting yellow, which coming off of a sub is a little bit surprising.
It is. And that's where you have to make sure you're reading what the official is giving you. And Eric Dick just taking a few more moments than likely. And again, strange to come off a substitution, but you mentioned Jockeson. His involvement was immediate. Coming on loan. Had the hat trick against Miami FC. 6 goals, or the 5 goals, sorry. Now the 7 appearances. I mean, this not necessarily that loud offensive performance that he might have wanted tonight in the influence, but still the attention that he and a player like Kizza command, allowing some of that space to open up for Danny Griffin, Walty.
Foot race here. Hogan takes it to the line. I mean, look, you came into the year, and I think all the expectation was on Keziah Sterling, and it didn't end up playing out that way. He's been a healthy scratch of late. Emmanuel Johnson hasn't played since the end of September. Jockeson came in. He and Kizza both caught fire. 5 straight games with a goal for Kizza. 7 goal contributions in 7 games for the Hounds for Jockeson. You know, we talked about it took a little time. Those two together has proven to be as dangerous as any duo in the league over the last 5-10 games.
And credit the Pittsburgh organization, Bob Lilly, his coaching staff, scouting department.
They went and found a guy that they needed mid-season, and that laid on. That is not easy to find a guy that impacts.
100%. I mean, sometimes you get it very wrong when you do something like that, and it ends up being a bit detrimental to a season, and they just smacked it out of the park with that.
And it's funny, right? Surely they had a good idea of what Jockeson brought, from the sense that he was at Pitt. I mean, he was playing right down the street, so that helps. But, you know, El Paso, when they made all the changes mid-season, it was funny. When Wilmer Cabrera first took over, he kind of said, look, all the hay's in the barn. The money's spent. This is what it is. And then he was able to maneuver and make about a dozen transfers in and out during that summer window. He went back to guys that he knew from RGV that could hit the ground and run, and then tacked on a handful of guys from elsewhere that have been in and out of the lineup since, including Ortiz on the ball now. Bob Lilly went out and got guys that had not been a part of his ecosystem before and got them all on board in a short amount of time. just guys in the right positions. They didn't go wholesale. They didn't panic. They went out and found a couple of guys that would help turn their season at the right moment, and they have. J.J. Williams, a penalty for Rhode Island, 2 goals and an assist tonight for him. Rhode Island 4-0 up on Miami. Miami have now given up 85 goals and have a goal difference of -60 on the year.
Goodness, that's a loud number.
And therein lies the best example of why we should have promotion relegation in the United States. There are going to be a lot of changes, methinks, for Miami FC this upcoming offseason.
I would second that.
Their manager bolting with 2 games left by mutual decision with the club. This from Ortiz is blocked, settled by Coronado. Well, Paso gets one here soon. They could make this a real interest. Moshabon, touch got by. Drags back inside, contact from Rivera to win the ball back. Overtaken by Ortiz, flicked inside. Ortiz after it again, sent away by Sample. Kizza, good hold up, wins a throw.
And for Wilmer Cabrera and his team, I know this scoreline is not what they were looking for, and obviously still time to flip the script, but they have to feel good about some of the structure and the identity, and
there's something here.
Absolutely. I just think going into an offseason, you can't feel, I mean, we talked about the goals conceded by Miami and the overhaul that's probably going to happen over there. I think Wilmer Cabrera and El Paso are doing it the right way. They're starting to install some players and the structure and the identity that is going to suit them and be beneficial moving forward.
For what it's worth, they left last year's. This floated and will race by, and Dick will grab it. They left last year with Brian Clairhout going, well, we can't let this happen again. What a spectacular implosion that ended up being. They had one of the longest unbeaten runs in the entire league right before the halfway point last season. And they thought, all right, let's see where we land. Come May, it was obvious it wasn't working. Brought in Wilmer Cabrera. They got that shock win against Charleston, then another dip in form, utilized the summer window. They're going to fall to the arguably hottest team in the league on the last day, but shouldn't take away from the fact that they finished 3-2-3, which over the course of a season gets you into the playoffs and in a pretty decent spot at that. Kizza comes off. He'll go into the playoffs on a 5-game heater. And Pierre Caillé, the 25-year-old Frenchman, makes his 16th appearance of the year. Try and mop up the remainder. They played seemingly 15 playoff games. They dug a deep hole, Pittsburgh did. And they are on the verge of going to the postseason for the 7th straight year. And doing so on home ground. More drama in North Carolina. 2-1 North Carolina there. 9 added minutes. They have just started stoppage time. The corner coming for Vegas. All the while here. Ball comes into Coronado. Pittsburgh wins. That other game is irrelevant to them. They will finish the 7 seed with a victory. It's now Hartford that's watching that North Carolina-Las Vegas game most closely. If they drop points, North Carolina could fall out of the playoffs. Las Vegas is seeding likely the 2nd seed by losing in North Carolina on the last day, with Sacramento and Colorado Springs playing one another. 4 added minutes meanwhile here.
Walty taking this to the corner, trying to see off precious time. Talked about the run that Pittsburgh had and the hole that they've dug themselves in, that 10 games winless. They had the 4 draws, but while you're picking up 4 points in 10 games, other teams are picking up 3 and creating some distance there. But the turnaround from Pittsburgh, and that takes those honest conversations, that collaboration of looking yourself in the mirror, looking at that identity, looking at those non-negotiables, and identifying where and how we fix those, and in season, so you're managing it in real time, and what a job they've done.
Driven long. Dick slinks back. Moreno.
Unless something absolutely crazy happens, Pittsburgh has to feel good about seeing these final 2 minutes out.
There's the ball in toward Moreno. Broadcaster curse. Usually undefeated. It appears you've escaped its gaze for the moment. Driven header wide. Coronado, that's likely the dagger with just a minute 40, just 100 seconds away. So the celebration is on in Pittsburgh. This closes one of 2 paths for Hartford, and the other is probably going to close about 5 minutes later.
For Pittsburgh, I know they don't have necessarily a goal in the run of play or in the build, 2 goals off the free kicks, but just a complete performance. You get the 2 early goals and then you manage the rest of the match. Stay solid defensively. Make it difficult for El Paso to break you down, even though they had moments where they broke down that first and second wave. It's tough to break them down from top to bottom.
Calvillo. That askew. Maybe one last exclamation point in front of the home fans. Ball laced across. El Paso cut it off. That deflects. Contact. That's going to be a second yellow if it's not offside. The discussion ongoing. Are they saying that's a foul against Kaye?
Yeah, I think they're calling that initial contact right there. It looked, yeah.
That's it. It's full time. They had to win it, and they do. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds are going to the playoffs for a 7th consecutive year. 1 loss in their last 16 games. And the winningest coach in league history bags another one on the last day. The hottest team in the league going into the postseason.
And created their first 2 goals in that first 20 minutes of the match and never looked back, never allowed El Paso to gain a footing in the match, to gain that momentum, to put anything dangerous in on frame, even though El Paso through that second half started to ask different questions, some dangerous services from those wide areas, some late corners and free kicks, but just a complete defensive performance from Pittsburgh once they took that 2-0 lead. And I go back to the delivery from Robbie Mertz. I mean, the quality and the clinical delivery was so important to get that man on the board. Edward Kizza, the game winner.
Well, the assist was to Kizza, and Kizza tonight's man of the match presented by Modelo, the winning goal that seals a playoff spot.
Working in between 2 El Paso defenders, beating his player to the spot, and just knowing that he just needs to get the slightest of touches on that service. then this save, Eric Dick fighting through the traffic.
The smooth save of the game is presented by Smoothie King. Bounces over Coronado into Dick's grasp. And that's enough to seal the clean sheet. And with it, the Golden Gloves for Eric Dick. The lowest goal against average in the league. And Kizza finishes with 5 straight games with a goal. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds are in. The longest streak in Pittsburgh pro sports continues. The second longest active streak in the championship continues. No one wants to see Pittsburgh right now. The Hounds win it 2-0 over El Paso. Our Pulse game coverage, full-time highlights, and perhaps a look at the Eastern Conference as a signed, sealed, delivered entity to come in a moment.
Whoa.
Nice. A little salt, a little sweet.
And a little scratch.
Ah, the new big cash payout.
Top prizes of 500 grand.
You've been down this road before.
Let's just say I'm a road hog. Viva Scratches!
At AHN, good heart care starts before you're just not feeling right. Before you say, it'll go away on its own. Before it doesn't. Because before an emergency, there's time to stop heart problems with a simple preventative heart check. At AHN, we see you.
Let's say you're deep in a show, or a game, or the game. Point is, at Xfinity, we're constantly engineering new ways to get the entertainment you love to you faster and easier than ever. That's what I do. Is that Love Island?
I got it too!
Power all your devices with fast, reliable Xfinity internet for just $30 a month with unlimited data and no annual contract. Xfinity, bring on the good stuff.
Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh. 2 spots were on the line on the final day, and the Hounds have finished the job. Meanwhile, in Cary, North Carolina, Las Vegas needed to win to have a chance at the 2 seed. Otherwise, Colorado Springs or Sacramento could jump them. This a live look into the final seconds of that game, and likely the final chance escaping over the line for Las Vegas as they've gone the 9 minutes there. North Carolina are seconds away from sealing up the final position in the playoffs. Hartford is watching with their heart in their mouth right now in Orange County, and it looks like their hope that somebody would stumble is going to come up just short. Perhaps one final kick of the ball here for North Carolina, and NCFC are on the verge against this Las Vegas team. A massive upset likely about to conclude. We'll bring you the final whistle of that in a moment. Let's take a look at the match highlights here in Pittsburgh. They're presented by Corona. Kizza, the opening goal. It was Pittsburgh's night from the beginning.
Yeah, what we saw from Pittsburgh was a team that met the moment. They knew what this game was going to be. They knew it was straightforward. You pick up 3 points and you put yourself in the playoffs. And off to the hot start, that delivery from Robbie Mertz, the goal from Edward Kizza really set the momentum for this next goal. This ball played across, the shape, the pace in which it was played, the deflection by Ricky Ruiz, and the 2-0 lead. But they continued to apply pressure to El Paso and continued to make it difficult for El Paso to play through their lines and just unable to pick up that goal that cut into the lead.
Meanwhile, let's take a look in on North Carolina and Las Vegas, which continues to 101 minutes. John Bradford with his arms folded. Maybe there's a chance for Corey Bennett here. Ball rolling wide. North Carolina trying to see this out as Lamar Batista plays it out. And that's it. Full time. And the Eastern playoff picture is settled. North Carolina is in. Hartford and Loudon are out on the last day. John Bradford from League One champion a year ago to the championship playoffs as the 8 seed. Get in with a win over Las Vegas. They're in. And these now, the Eastern Conference standings. The 8 teams are done. North Carolina will go to Louisville. Pittsburgh will go to Charleston. Detroit, currently holding a point, will finish 3rd. Indy 11 will finish 4th. That's done. Rhode Island with a big-time lead over Miami, but not holding the tiebreaker. That'll be a matchup. And it looks like we've got a bracket, partner.
It does, and credit to North Carolina responding. They concede the goal in the 9th minute to Corey Bennett. 3 minutes later, respond with the Paco Craig goal. And then in the 45th, the goal by Anderson, which proves to be the game winner. So answering those challenges, especially in a nervy match that you pick up 3 points, you put yourself in the playoffs. Sometimes you see teams crumble under those moments where you concede early. Not North Carolina. They found the answers they needed to, and they found a way to finish that game off too.
And so that's it tonight. And the drama concludes in the 7 o'clock match window tonight. Pittsburgh a 2-0 win as they close out the regular season of their 25th year with a 2-0 victory over El Paso. A remarkable climb through the second half of the season that sees them lose just once since July the 6th. They defeat El Paso tonight 2-0. For Eric Dobransky, our entire team in Pittsburgh and beyond, Mike Watts saying thanks for watching. They're in. The Hounds are headed to Charleston next week for the Eastern Conference quarterfinal. So long. We'll see you for the playoffs next week. Good night.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.